Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 48 based on novel. So let's start. The eastern Shen region was slightly to the south. This was a quiet azure sky and flocks of birds occasionally flew past. The chirps of birds seemed to join together in waves as it spread into the distance. However, this peace was suddenly broken after a long time and flocks of birds fled one by one. One could see the azure blue sky slowly distort at this moment. The distortion reached the limit and space was forcefully torn apart. A huge spatial crack slowly appeared. Following the tearing of space, a baleful aura that could fill the sky swept out. This baleful aura slowly spread as the temperature of the area gradually dropped. After which, the spatial crack slowly shook and a skinny figure was the first to step out from within it. Those pitch-black eyes looked towards the land the moment he stepped out from the spatial crack. Soon after, a complicated emotion surged within his indifferent eyes. It appeared to be reminiscence, excitement, hatred. Eastern Shen region. I am finally back. Lin Dong spread his hands. He deeply inhaled a breath of cool air that belonged to this region and muttered. The space behind Lin Dong shook as a couple of figures walked out. Soon after, the baleful aura suddenly strengthened. Countless figures with ferocious auras seemed to cover the sky and land as they rushed out and gathered behind Lin Dong. Although there were so many of them, not the slightest unusual sound was emitted. Their movement and breathing made them appear like a single entity, a sight that was rather shocking. Is this the Eastern Shen region? I have never been here before. Liu Qing observed the area and chuckled. Big brother, where are we? Little Flame looked around before asking. Although he was certain that they had arrived in the Eastern Shen region, given how vast it was, no one knew where they had landed. We will know when we walk around. Lin Dong waved his hand. His eyes looked to his front as his body shot forward. Everyone, including the 8,000-strong tiger-devouring army, immediately followed. They were extremely quick. Within a short 10 minutes or so, they had already traveled thousands of miles. However, the earlier peacefulness no longer existed. All that entered their eyes was a torn and tattered land. It looked as if the land had experienced a terrible war. It seems that the war started by Yuan Gate has enveloped the entire Eastern Shen region. Little Martin frowned and said as he watched this scene. Lin Dong nodded. He had seen many people fleeing along the way. However, most of these were ordinary folk and the strongest amongst them was only within the 3 creation stages. With such strength, they did not even have the ability to discover any signs of Lin Dong's group. There is a large group heading towards us from in front. Some of them seem to have a little ability. First Elder Zhu Li suddenly looked forward and said. Lin Dong's mental energy swept forth upon hearing this. He discovered that there were over 10,000 people in this group. Their overall strength was much stronger than the groups they had seen earlier. Moreover, one of them seemed to have reached the initial profound death stage. Even in the super sects, such a strength would allow one to have an elder position. However, these people wore an express of panic and were clearly from a defeated party. The only thing to find out was where they came from. Big brother. Little Flame looked at Lin Dong to get the latter's opinion. No need to waste time. Lin Dong shook his head. The Eastern Shen region was currently extremely chaotic. Most of it was due to the war between the empires under Yuan Gate and those under the other super sects. They did not have the mood to bother with a fight of this level. Once they finished off Yuan Gate, all of the chaos would naturally disappear. Little Flame nodded upon hearing this. He was just about to wave his hand and give the order when he saw Lin Dong's expression suddenly freeze. Wait. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes and peered into the distance as he said. What is it? Little Flame also looked into the distance and inquired. There seems to be an acquaintance. Lin Dong smiled faintly. His expression seemed to suggest that he was reminiscing the past. Just how many years had it been? Rumble. A somewhat miserable flood of people surged past on the road. They gazed behind them from time to time with eyes filled with anxiety and panic. At the very front of this group was a pale-faced middle-aged woman traveling with great speed. She seemed to be seriously injured and was unable to endure such torment. Muffled moans continuously emerged her throat as blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth. "Martial Aunt Mo, are you all right?" A cry of alarm came from the side as a lady hurriedly moved closer to her. This lady was wearing a blue dress. Her face was pretty and her slim body was like the willows on the lakeside, giving her an extremely alluring appearance. At this moment, she was looking at the middle-aged woman with a worried expression. Her tone was filled with concern. "Lan Ying, I'm fine. If they manage to catch up, I will go and stop them. You will immediately lead everyone back to the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace. They will be safe only after reaching it." The middle-aged woman shook her head and said, "But Martial Aunt, you... No more nonsense. These are all that is left of your Celestial Empire's imperial family. Do you wish for your entire clan to be wiped out?" The middle-aged woman's eyes turned stern as she said. Lan Ying bit her red lips tightly upon seeing this and fresh blood came flowing out. The middle-aged woman called Martial Aunt Mo also sighed softly in despair. She was about to speak when her expression changed drastically. She hurriedly lifted her head and looked to her front. "Stop!" The large group immediately slowed in a miserable fashion as many pairs of eyes looked to their front. Their expressions changed. After which, thousands of spear-wielding troops rushed forward, guarding the group from the front. Their eyes were filled with caution. At this moment, a large black army stood in the sky to their front. The baleful aura that seeped out from the bodies of these people was extremely dense, and caused even the air itself to solidify. Martial Aunt Mo looked at the quiet and unmoving army before her eyes, as intense shock suddenly rose within them. This sight caused her to have difficulty breathing. Moreover, this mysterious army was not the one which caused her heart to shudder. Instead, it was the 10 figures at the front of the group that did so. Every single one of them caused her heart to tremble. Although she could be considered a top-tier expert within the Eastern Shen region with her initial profound death stage strength, she felt as weak as a baby in front of these people. "Martial Aunt Mo, they do not appear to be from Yuan Gate." Lan Ying's pretty face initially paled. However, she quickly opened her mouth and said. This was because she did not feel any hostility from this mysterious army. Martial Aunt Mo finally awoke from her daze after hearing these words. She hurriedly got down from her horse and respectfully said, "Elders, may I know who you are?" "This junior is Mo Yun, an elder of the Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace. I hope that elders will forgive us if we have offended you in any way." Lan Ying and the others were startled when they saw her acting in such a manner. They were well aware of the strength and arrogance of Martial Aunt Mo. Yet, "Quick, everyone dismount. Do not be rude. These few elders are not weaker than Palace Master. We must not offend them," Martial Aunt Mo hurriedly said after that everyone seemed to be in a daze. Not weaker than the Palace Master. The expressions of Lan Ying's group changed upon hearing these words. They hurriedly dismounted. Their faces were filled with respect. The black torrent in the distant sky gradually approached after their group came to a stop. With their approach, the frightening baleful aura caused the faces of Lan Ying's group to pale. Their hearts were filled with uncertainty. Just what faction did this mysterious group in front of them belong to? Such a lineup was something that even their Nine Heavens Supreme Purity Palace could not produce. Lan Ying and the rest secretly lifted their eyes as they bowed in respect. After which, they saw the few figures at the front of this group slowly descend towards them. "Miss Lan Ying, it has been many years since we last met. How are you?" Martial Aunt Mo hurriedly bowed when she saw these people descend. However, a warm laughter was suddenly transmitted from the front. This caused her to be startled. These elders were actually acquainted with Lan Ying? Lan Ying was also taken aback. She exchanged a glance with Martial Aunt Mo. After which, she carefully lifted her head and saw a few people standing in front of her. At the very front was a skinny young man. The young man was of similar age to her. His youthful face gave her a familiar feeling. "Elder, you acquainted with Lan Ying?" Martial Aunt Mo carefully asked. She was not careless just because this person looked young. The pressure from the latter's body caused her to be unable to even circulate the Yuan power within her body. You are Lin Dong? Martial Aunt Mo's voice had only just sounded when Lan Ying, who was thinking hard by the side, suddenly let out a cry. Shock and disbelief covered her pretty face. You are still alive? Lan Ying exclaimed after her previous word sounded. Lin Dong? Which Lin Dong? Elder Mo looked at Lan Ying with a lost expression. She thought for a long time but was unable to recall such a peak-level individual within the Eastern Shen region. He is that Lin Dong from Dao sect? The same Lin Dong who was forced to leave the Eastern Shen region by the three great heads of Yuan Gate 3 years ago. He came out together with myself from the 100 Empire War back then. Lan Ying hurriedly replied. The Dao sect's Lin Dong. Elder Mo was once again stunned. She suddenly recalled something and shock quickly surged on her face. Her eyes looked as though she was seeing a ghost when she looked to the smiling young man in front of her again. Ha ha, it seems that Miss Lan Ying still remembers me. Lin Dong smiled. He looked at the familiar pretty face of Lan Ying and felt somewhat emotional. Everything had changed now that they had met again so many years later. Lin Dong had quite a good impression of this Lan Ying in the 100 Empire War. At the very least, the latter did not look down on him just because he was from a low-rank empire. I heard that you were forced to leave the Eastern Shen region by the three great heads of Yuan Gate. I never imagined that you are still alive. Do you know? Marshal Junior Su Ru frequently thinks about you. And Marshal Senior Qing Zhu. She also mentioned you. They will definitely be extremely happy to learn that you are still alive. Lan Ying's pretty face became a little flushed from her excitement. Even her voice had become a lot more hurried. Su Ru. Lin Dong's eyes seemed to become a little gentle as he recalled the timid young lady. Soon after, however, a complicated emotion rose within his heart. Ling Qingzhu. The once cold and proud fairy was the only lady whom he had looked up to and chased. It was precisely because of her that Lin Dong had left the small Great Yang Empire. Regardless of what had changed, Lin Dong knew that he would never forget the only lady whom he had performed intimate acts with. He wondered how she fared over the years. Martial Aunt Mo looked at Lan Ying, whose face was flushed with excitement and urgently coughed. The present Lin Dong was clearly no longer that tender Dao sect disciple from back then. Based on the order in which this group of people in front of them stood, it was obvious that Lin Dong was the leader. Moreover, the most terrifying thing was that the strength of these people were not weaker than the palace master of their 9 heavens Supreme Purity Palace. She was really unable to imagine how a Dao sect disciple could become so frightening within a short 3 years. Lan Ying quickly recovered after hearing Martial Aunt Mo cough softly. She immediately let loose a cry and hurriedly took a step back. Lin Dong smiled. He was about to speak when the expression in his eyes hardened. Those indifferent eyes looked into the distance where a large group of people were rushing towards them. Some strong individuals were also hurrying over in the air. These people had extraordinary auras. Martial Aunt Mo and Lan Ying also detected the activity from behind and anxious expressions flashed across their eyes. Great leader. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander looked at Lin Dong. They are from Yuan Gate. Little Martin smiled faintly. A frosty look flashed across his handsome face. Kill all of them. Lin Dong withdrew his eyes and said in an indifferent voice. Understood. The Heaven Dragon Demon Commander smiled and nodded. His body moved and disappeared. A short while later, a miserable cry was suddenly transmitted from behind. Lan Ying and the others hurriedly turned their heads. Next, they saw the strong individuals from Yuan Gate, whom even Martial Aunt Mo could not beat, being killed in an instant. Moreover, they did not even have the power to retaliate. It was not even a minute later when the Heaven Dragon Demon Commander once again appeared behind Lin Dong. There were not traces of blood on his body. However, the powerful intimidating aura caused those behind Lan Ying to tremble as they tightly sealed their mouths. Martial Aunt Mo and Lan Ying swallowed a mouthful of saliva. They were well aware that there were 3 initial profound death stage experts amongst the experts from Yuan Gate. Compared to those from Yuan Gate, it was obvious that these people in front of them were truly gods of death. However, their fear turned into joy after they recalled just how many of their clan members had been killed by Yuan Gate. Lin Dong, thank you for rescuing us. Lan Ying clenched her hand tightly. Her face had turned a little red because she had escaped the danger. She quickly thanked him with gratitude. Lin Dong smiled and shook his head. He said, Miss Lan Ying, do you know which part of the Eastern Shen region we are in? This is the southern part of the Eastern Shen region. It is the border between the Celestial Empire and the North Mountain Empire. However, the Celestial Empire no longer exists. Lan Ying sadly said. Lin Dong nodded. The Celestial Empire was under 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace. Since Yuan Gate had declared war on 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace, it would naturally not let off these subordinate empires. Is the 9 Heaven's Supreme Purity Palace still okay? Lin Dong hesitated before asking. We are not sure. All of us have been fleeing from Yuan Gate during this period of time. It has been a long time since we have received information from the palace. However, I believe that there should not be any problems since Palace Master is stationed there. Lan Ying thought for a moment before speaking. That's right. Lan Ying suddenly recalled something as her pretty eyes widened. Lin Dong, I recall that you are from the Lin clan of the Great Yang Empire, right? Lin Dong nodded. Unease surged in his heart as he observed Lan Ying's appearance. What has happened to the Great Yang Empire and the Lin clan? You need to quickly return. The Great Yang Empire has been attacked by the surrounding empires loyal to Yuan Gate for 3 months and have suffered a series of continuous defeats. They have even been forced back to the capital. All the members of the great clans within the empire have gathered in the capital. If the city falls, I'm afraid that they will not be able to escape a bloodbath. Lan Ying hurriedly said. Her voice had only just sounded when she suddenly felt the entire place turning ice cold. The somewhat warm-looking face of Lin Dong from earlier had become exceptionally twisted. An alarmingly baleful aura blasted apart the clouds. In an instant, it felt as though the surrounding temperature had plummeted. Lan Ying and the rest who were closest to Lin Dong were unable to endure such a terrifying aura. Their eyes were filled with horror as they hastily backed away with pale faces. Big brother. Little Flame immediately spoke up when he saw this situation. The baleful aura vanished little by little, while the sinister look on Lin Dong's face also gradually faded. However, the coldness in those pitch-black eyes of his was like never-melting ice, so cold that it could freeze one's soul. Miss Lan Ying, could I trouble you to show us the way? We must immediately return to the Great Yang Empire. Lin Dong looked towards Lan Ying and said. Okay. Lan Ying took a look at the Celestial Empire's royal clan members behind her, before she nodded her head. Don't worry, Miss Lan Ying, I will send men to escort these clan members to a safe place. Lin Dong immediately declared. He was after all aware of Lan Ying's apprehensions. Then I'll have to thank you. Only then did Lan Ying sigh in relief, before she gratefully thanked him. Given Lin Dong's current status and power, these words of his would definitely ensure the safety of her clan members in the Eastern Shen region. Marshal Aunt Mo, I will follow Lin Dong to the Great Yang Empire. My clan members will be in your hands. Lan Ying tilted her head and looked at Marshal Aunt Mo as she spoke. Marshal Aunt Mo nodded. She had no objections. Lin Dong's group was far too terrifying, and even their 9 Heaven Supreme Purity Palace could not afford to offend them. The fact that Lan Ying was able to take advantage of this opportunity to create some relations with such a group was already greatly beneficial for them. Lin Dong gently beckoned with his hand. A tiger-devouring army captain quickly walked forward and respectfully said, Great leader. You will lead 200 tiger-devouring army troops and escort them to a safe place. Understood. The captain immediately responded. Miss Lan Ying, let us be on our way. Lin Dong looked towards Lan Ying and said. Marshal Aunt Mo took a look at the captain, and admiration involuntarily filled her eyes. She could sense that latter's strength had almost reached the peak of the advanced profound death stage. Moreover, the auras of the so-called tiger-devouring army behind him were all rather powerful. They were just like a group of wolves and tigers. I never imagined that in a short period of less than 3 years, the Dao sect disciple from back then would actually become this powerful. If the Chen Yuanzi trio find out that the ant in their eyes had grown to such an extent, I wonder if they will feel regret in their hearts. Martial Aunt Mo felt somewhat sorrowful but was soon after greatly delighted. Yuan Gate had started a war, causing the eastern Shen region to fall into chaos. Now, someone had finally come to cure this scourge. Lin Dong was absolutely an intimidating star of misfortune for Yuan Gate. Let's go. Lin Dong was done with his orders. Without further ado, a thought passed through his mind and boundless mental energy directly grabbed hold of Lan Ying. Next, his figure moved, and when it appeared once again, it was already at 10,000 feet away. Upon seeing Lin Dong move, Little Martin, Little Flame and the rest also swiftly followed. The tiger-devouring army that was akin to a single body rose into the air. Like a black cloud, an intimidating and ferocious aura rumbled around them as they also followed. As Martial Aunt Mo gazed at this lineup, she could not help but sigh once again. It was likely that not a single super sect in the eastern Shen region would be able to take out such a terrifying lineup, right? The fact that such a monstrous disciple had come from Dao sect truly made it impossible to not be crazily envious. Miss Lan Ying, could you explain to me the current situation in the eastern Shen region? Light figures flickered. Lin Dong and the rest had pushed their speed to the limit, and Lan Ying was only able to keep up without any effort because she fully depended on Lin Dong's mental energy to carry her. Currently, Lin Dong's head was tilted, and was taking the opportunity to inquire about the current state of the eastern Shen region. Besides Yuan Gate, only Dao sect and 9 Heavens Supreme Purity Palace still exist amongst the former 8 super sects of the eastern Shen region. The other super sects have either surrendered and aligned themselves with Yuan Gate, or were wiped out by them. Lan Ying softly sighed as she spoke. Yuan Gate should not be this powerful, right? Lin Dong frowned a little. Although it was previously known that Yuan Gate was the strongest super sect, they definitely did not have the capability to start war with so many super sects at once. Logically speaking, that should be the case. However, not long after the war started, Yuan Gate suddenly displayed an extremely terrifying strength, and ordinary super sects were no longer a match for them at all. They had truly concealed themselves too deeply. Lin Dong's eyes faintly narrowed. Odds were that it was not that Yuan Gate had concealed themselves too deeply, but they had some kind of aid. Moreover, such aid was extremely likely to have come from the Yimo. From the devil seeds on the Huiyuan trio's bodies, Lin Dong knew that there was definitely something going on between Yuan Gate and the Yimo. It was not impossible for those Yimo to use some kind of method to raise the Yuan Gate disciples' strength. To think that these bastards had allied themselves to the Yimo. Miss Lan Ying, is Dao sect okay? Lin Dong softly asked. He had an exceptionally complicated expression in his eyes when he said these 2 words. Although he had only stayed in Dao sect for a year, if the Lin family was Lin Dong's first home, then the Dao sect would be his second. He would never forget the numerous people he met and the memories he made there. Ying Huan, Ying Xiao, Wang Yang, Wu Dao, Ying Xuanzi, and all of the Desolate Hall's brother disciples. Lin Dong had experienced too much over the years, and only that year in Dao sect allowed him to truly feel warmth. Such a feeling had not been felt even after he had established 4 Titans Palace. Lan Ying took a look at Lin Dong. She had naturally heard of the unique Devil Region event from 3 years ago. Because he had been afraid of implicating Dao sect, Lin Dong announced his withdrawal in front of everyone. Dao sect is still okay. Although Yuan Gate had invaded several times, Dao sect had warded them off in the end. An extremely amazing person has appeared in the current Dao sect, and I believe that you should know her. Lin Dong faintly laughed, but his hands involuntarily tightened into fists, while his usually calm heart started to ripple at this moment. She is called Ying Huan, and is the Dao sect master's daughter. She is now extremely famous in the eastern Shen region. When Yuan Gate dispatched 3 Samsara stage practitioners to attack Dao sect, they were all intercepted by Ying Huan. Although she suffered some injuries in the end, those three Samsara stage super experts were all seriously injured. Lan Ying's tone involuntarily became a little excited, while a look of worship flickered in her pretty eyes. The current Ying Huan was undoubtedly a legend in the eastern Shen region. She was injured? Lin Dong's expression turned cold, as the signs of the terrible aura that Lan Ying had previously been unable to bear started to appear. It was half a year ago. I have no idea how Ying Huan cultivates as her strength grows day by day. It is due to her that Yuan Gate's attacks on Dao sect have been stopped time and time again. However, even though a formidable individual like her has appeared in Dao sect, Yuan Gate's hidden strength is simply too terrifying. Hence, Dao sect has been forced to hide within their great sect protection formation and are in an extremely passive state. Lan Ying was unable to withstand the terrible aura, thus she spoke quickly. These Yuan Gate trash. Lin Dong slightly gnashed his teeth as the killing intent within his heart surged. He naturally knew why Ying Huan's strength had soared so rapidly. It was surely because the Ice Master's power was returning. Once the Ice Master's power completely awakened, even Lin Dong would not know whether she was Ying Huan or the Ice Master. These Yuan Gate bastards had actually used such a method to force Ying Huan into a state that Lin Dong did not wish to see the most. Moreover, when he thought about the wretched situation Dao sect was in and the numerous burdens that Ying Huan had to bear, how could his killing intent not intensify? He was truly somewhat unable to imagine how those delicate shoulders of the lovable, charming and lively little princess from back then, the same little princess that every single Dao sect disciple held dear in their hearts, could shoulder such an immense burden. Dao sect should be able to hold on for some time. After you've solved the predicament the Great Yang Empire is in, you can go help them. Lan Ying said. Subsequently, as if she wanted to disperse Lin Dong's terrible aura, she hastily added in, the current Great Yang Empire cannot compare to before. Their power is likely not weaker than other super empires. Lin Dong was immediately a little stunned. When he had left back then, the Great Yang Empire was merely a tiny low-rank empire. How could they now possess a power that was comparable to super empires? Isn't this mostly thanks to you? Even since you were forced to leave, Dao sect would send a tremendous amount of natural treasures to the Great Yang Empire every year. Of course, most of these were given to the Lin clan. Additionally, Dao sect was worried that something might happen to your parents, hence they dispatched several experts to the Great Yang Empire. This was also why the Great Yang Empire was able to endure for so long in the current chaos. Lan Ying explained. Lin Dong slightly nodded his head. His expression was complicated. Dao sect was not unkind to him, and he knew that this was perhaps a kind of compensation from Ying Xuanzi. However, Lin Dong had never blamed Ying Xuanzi for what had happened in Unique Devil region back then. As the sect master of an entire sect, the burdens he carried was not limited to his personal honor. He needed to be responsible for each and every one of the over 10,000 disciples of Dao sect. Hence, his actions could never be swayed by his feelings like Ying Huan. Moreover, Lin Dong had witnessed how he had acted to help later on. Even though Lin Dong's strength and status were vastly different from 3 years ago, he had always felt respect towards this Dao sect master. There are a total of 3 super empires that have encircled and are attacking the Great Yang Empire. They are all subordinate to Yuan Gate, and have some prior conflicts with the Great Yang Empire. Therefore, they have taken advantage of this opportunity. However, the current Great Yang Empire is not weak and have managed to maintain a deadlock with them until recently, when the Yuan Gate dispatched some experts over. This has resulted in the Great Yang Empire being steadily pushed back in retreat, before finally being forced into critical situation of being entrenched in their capital city. Lin Dong nodded his head. Chilling anger swirled within his black pupils. He did not care if these super empires were being used. If his parents or relatives had suffered even the slightest injury, he would make them know what a price paid in blood meant. In addition, the main cause of this disaster, Yuan Gate. I will let you know how terrible of calamity the actions of those 3 old dogs from back then have brought upon you. Lan Ying spoke no further when she saw Lin Dong's appearance, and would only give directions occasionally, although the Celestial Empire was extremely far from the Great Yang Empire. With the speed of Lin Dong's group, they passed by numerous empires in merely half a day, and the war-torn borders of the Great Yang Empire started to appear in Lindong's sights. This video will end here.